Okay, so I had to come to a more quiet area simply because the other spot was just way too loud. I'm This is all part of the digital nomad life where you don't know what type of setting you're going to be in to record. You don't know what is going to get in the way, but regardless of that, you're still going to make it happen. So, no excuses. I'm gonna try to keep my eyes on the screen, but I wanted to share the number that I spent for the first 6 months of my sabbatical because that is where I was strictly traveling. As I shared in the first part of the video, it's hurting. And the number that I came up with is going to include food, activities, lodging, and bills in between. And that number is so many people walking by. So that number is going to be $3,000. It actually was a little bit less than that. I'm being very, very generous when I say $3,000. It was actually between $2,500 to $3,000. So use that number, and it could definitely be a little bit less. It could be more depending on the types of things that you're doing. I was doing everything that I wanted to do. I think once you get to a point in your financial journey, you do, and like I said, I have more of a savings type personality, so I am very cautious about my spending, but I also, if there's something that I want, I will also make sure I get that thing. So that's for 4 countries. I was in Mexico for 2 weeks. I spent another few days in Florida to go to Disney because that was a promise that I made to my friend's son. So if you wanted to take that number out, you can definitely subtract 1,500 minus 18,000 to get to that number there, because that's about how much that costed me. And then did 2 months in Costa Rica, all throughout Costa Rica. I also did pay rent twice, and that was about $800 a month. I also ended up going to Aruba for about 7 days for my friend's birthday. So that was definitely probably where a big portion of the money was spent outside of Costa Rica, because Costa Rica is quite expensive. The only time that I really saved money in Costa Rica was when I was doing the long-term rental, which was $800 a month. And then lastly, my last 2 months, I ended up spending it in Colombia. And when I was doing the math, that is where I spent the least amount of money. Mexico may have been on that list. For those 3 countries, I was in, like I said, Oaxaca. That was a little bit cheaper. Mexico City was okay. And also keep in mind, this is also including transportation. So this is including flights. But the most expensive flight was actually the one coming back to the States. I did fly with Spirit. But I had to be back in the States to watch over my friend's house, and there were a few things, so I had to make sure that flight went through. So that was about $500, but all the other flights were, second to that one was probably the one to Mexico City. And then in the cities I was doing, I think I only had one international flight, or one domestic flight, and that was from Medellin to Santa Marta. So that was very inexpensive. I think it was like maybe 100 maybe. So for it to be a last minute, it's expensive in that sense, but it's like, for us, that's not expensive. But like I said, this is just a general number. It could be more, it could be less. Like I said, I could probably reduce that number to about $27.50 a month. And I honestly, if I wasn't moving around to so many new places and I found a affordable place and I wasn't doing, you know, maybe if I took out Aruba from there, perhaps if I even took out Costa Rica and chose some cheaper places, it could have definitely costed a lot less. This is just a number for someone that is a somewhat of a, I would say I'm probably more on the budget type of travel style. I'm also more in the mid-range. I wouldn't say I'm luxury. That's definitely not me. I have done from time to time hostels in there too, which can range to about $15 a day, especially once you get to Colombia. I believe it's also the same price in Costa Rica, but we all know what that comes with, kind of like my situation now here in Amsterdam, where I have to come outside to record despite how cold it is. So that was the number I wanted to share with you guys. Like I said, my number doesn't have to be your number. It all depends on what you are trying to accomplish. If you want a more luxurious trip, it's definitely going to cost you a lot more. And you can also be even cheaper than my type of travel. So I hope that was very helpful. And if you're thinking about doing a sabbatical, or if you are simply wanting to take some time off of work, and also be mindful of this. Even on the more expensive end, if we even go with the $3,000 a month, which I came up to about 17.5 is the number that I came up with. That's why I rounded up to 1,800. If you think about it, I was paying about $1,100 a month for my rent when I was in Phoenix. So in theory, $3,000 a month really is just the $2,000 extra that I was paying for this vacation. So these are all things that you should think of, because if you're paying rent and if you decide that you are no longer going to be, obviously if you're traveling, you're no longer going to have your home, and so therefore you're not going to be paying for rent. So that money that you could be allocating towards rent will be going towards your travel. So it's kind of like girl math we're doing here, but that's still something to consider. So yes, it was $3,000, but it's somewhat of like $2,000. So it's just my rent being paid in a different way as well. So just some things for you to think about. Not to mention your light bill, your electricity, if you have a car. It depends. I don't know if you may or may not be aware of this, but you do have the option to change your car insurance. If it's sitting and it's not driving, you can actually change your insurance. For mine, it didn't change much of it. It just reduced it by about $20. So I just kept my insurance the way that it was. But these are all things that can add up that you can start applying towards your travel sabbatical. So that I just wanted to share that with you guys. Hopefully that number doesn't scare you. Hopefully it doesn't seem like it's unachievable, because it's definitely achievable. And like I said, you can make it a lot more affordable. There's things like trusted house sitters, hostels. We can even talk about like Workaway and different things like that. And my travel was a little bit unorganized. So if you are traveling at the last minute and doing some of these things at the last minute, it's going to add up. So be thinking of those things. I'm trying to start saying be mindful of those things, because I feel like I say that phrase so much. So anyways, I hope this video is helpful to you guys, and I'll see you guys later on. Hasta luego.